individuals who have made hundreds and hundreds, if not billions of dollars through their main profession, own and operate franchises?
Yes, I mean, I've been in franchising literally my entire life. We did 45 million last year on the Mighty side. Our goal is 55 this year.
What do you think the biggest challenge of being a franchisor would be?
Okay, so I tell people, don't follow your passion. Franchising is for people that say, just show me how to make money and I want to do it, right? I'm going to follow the playbook. Like their goal is to take all these questions out so that the only thing left to focus on is execution. Owning franchises has changed my life, many of my friends' life, and I just want to help more people achieve the same thing. So.
Welcome to the show, Brian.
Awesome, cool. Thanks for having me,
dude. Thanks for coming. I'm excited to get you out west. I got to introduce to you, and what I'm so excited about today's conversation is we're going to dig deep into an area that is very meaningful to me, franchising. But you don't come at it from the side that I usually have these conversations with, as either the franchisor or the franchisee, even though you are a franchisee, and you own 33 Midases.
Yep.
You got the Midas touch.
Yep.
But you also come at it of helping many people create wealth through franchising, both through how you help them with the coaching consulting side, which we'll get into, and working with franchisors to find the best placement. But I also love the fact that you are curating a community. I love the name, 8-Figure Franchisee, where you are not only saying, hey, I'm going to help you get into this arena, but once they're there, helping them then turn that into that wealth creation model. Because I think there's a huge divide today, and I'm so excited to dig into this, and you can elaborate how you kind of came to that. But there's the people who help you get started, like you need to acquire companies, start companies, buy franchises. Then once you do, there's just this void. And then there's sell companies, get out of your businesses and scale with private equity or VC and do that. And so that whole middle ground, which is you help them get into the game, you help them through the game, and that game is where they win. How did you kind of get into that, being that you were the franchisee first?
Yep.
And clearly successful. How did you kind of recognize this void and drive yourself into that area of the industry?
Yes, I mean, I've been in franchising literally my entire life, and so it's all I know. And I've, a big part of being a franchisee is the community aspect, right? It's learning from other people who've been there, and I think that's a huge benefit that a lot of people don't know. But then there's this other element of, you become the people you surround yourself with, right? And if you raise the level of the people who are your world, that's how you can raise your standards. And so, a couple years ago, I intentionally wanted to surround myself with another level of people. And so I had joined another mastermind. It wasn't for franchisees, it was just, higher net worth people who wanted to live epic lives. And so anyway, I joined this thing, and it we all live in a bubble, right? And all the ideas and everything we have is within this bubble. But then when you start to pop that and start to realize there's this whole world that lives outside of it, it opens your mind to things that you didn't even know was possible, ways of thinking, drive, networks, all that. And so anyway, I joined this community of all these people, and I realized I could personally play at a much higher level. And so, during that time, we tripled, quadrupled the size of our business.
The franchise
yeah,
business.
My business. Yeah. And I've 7x'd my net worth in 5 years or whatever it's been by surrounding myself with all these people, right, and thinking this way. And so for me, it was like a life-changing event to do that. And that group specifically was a lot of real estate guys at the time. It's what I thought I wanted to do. And instead, I said, all right, what could I do in terms of the franchise world, because that's mainly the people that I'm surrounded with, to help create a similar experience, to bring a bunch of people together, like-minded, and be this safe community to share, whatever challenges. Because a lot of things that every franchise owner or business owner goes through is the same. It's how do we hire great people? How do we retain them? How do we create this path? I've got this conflict with my franchisor. How do I deal with that? I want to buy out my neighboring franchisee, or I'm having this problem. Who do you talk to about this? You can't talk about it online. You may not want to talk about it with the franchisor if it's a conflict. But the principles and everything around that are universal. It doesn't matter if they operate an Everball, a Midas, or a painting company. The issues and the running of the business is exactly the same. And so anyway, my goal is to create a trusted peer group community to bring these people together. And anyway, we're about a year in. We have about 50 members, and it's awesome. My goal is to make it the number one in the country. So,
and I mean, look, I think it's a great goal, and it is a very altruistic mission, because a lot of people in your position that has 7x their net worth own and operate or control 33 franchise locations of anything.
Yep.
There's so many areas that you can now focus on to increase the wealth, and as you're not going to make as much money through a community personally, but you're going to create more abundance, awareness, and attraction of people, which will allow you to make more money personally, long tail play. And I love that you talked about mindset, because some good friends of mine in real estate space, the Mathis twins in Florida, they have a saying that I love more than anything, which is exposure leads to expansion. That once you realize and you are exposed to a different way of thinking or opportunity, it expands what you believe is possible. And as you said, it allowed you the freedom to realize you can play bigger. Why do you think people are attracted to franchising specifically? And then also simultaneously, what is holding people back from actually just being looky-loos? Because I think everybody has that moment, oh my God, I want to own this, when there's lines out the door.
Yep.
Or something that they enjoy or they think that they can make money on. But then there's that period of anxiety and apprehension, right? That stops them. And I'm assuming you probably through your business deal with that quite a bit. What is that, if there's like a couple things that you just run into all the time that you're constantly trying to help them get out of their mind, that limiting belief that's stopping them from playing bigger?
Yeah, so the first question, why do people get into franchising? Franchising is for people that say, just show me how to make money and I want to do it, right? I'm going to follow the playbook. I think that's like the biggest part of it. Like for me, like I don't care that my name's not on, the wall anymore. I don't care about, that it's, I'm not going to be on Entrepreneur Magazine or, any of these fancy things. Like what I care about is, having a vehicle that I can use to get to the destination that I want to go, right? Mm-hmm. And so for me, franchising is, the best vehicle because, I want the guardrails, right? I want the things that say, hey, I can drive on this road as fast as I can as long as I stay within these bounds. And I think for a lot of people, it's a similar thing where they don't need to be the creative one, or they don't need to be the one that like has to figure all this stuff out. They just want to really focus on execution. And I think what a lot of people don't realize is in the franchise system is, it's this partnership. And the whole goal of it is that the franchisor handles, supply chain, real estate, marketing, logistics, point of sale. Like their goal is to take all these questions out so that the only thing left to focus on is execution, which in a lot of ways is the hardest part, which is why you have to narrow your focus in on it. I'm a big fan of Ben Hardy, Dan Benjamin, their books, 10X is easier than 2X. And this idea that if you can like narrow down and be laser focused on one thing, that you can make that thing way bigger. And even a franchise, I talk to these people all the time. They're like, I want to open like this brand and then this brand and this brand. They want to have like 5 different things. And I'm saying like, kind of the whole point of owning a franchise is you rinse and repeat, right? And even for us, we have 33 locations. Our goal this year is to get another, 6 to 8, something in that market. Yeah. But like we could add another $10 million in revenue, and like my day does like not change at all. Like there's no new problems that come. We just continue to rinse and repeat. We can continue to then build infrastructure within our company, from a store manager to a district manager to a COO to the CEO now, and so. Like that's the big benefit, is that once you can get in there, you focus on execution, and then you can continue to just build out this infrastructure. Actually at scale, the business becomes easier and easier to operate because now you have a team of people. And your second question in terms of like, the apprehension and whatnot.
Well, I didn't mean to ask it such different questions. So let's talk a little deeper on that one, and we'll go back to that one, because I think you are sharing something from a very important side of the coin, because I came at it differently, not because with the same intention. And my view of it is that franchising is great. I think why some of our franchisees who own multiple brands, it seems to be either geographic constraints, because they don't want to be outside of a certain geographic region. So they've hit capacity. So now it's like, well, let me use the capacity and do another brand. And they made enough money where like, this is repeatable from a collection of brands. But I love that you talked about they don't have just one of this and one of that. So it is whether or not your landscape is how broad and wide it is and how many can you open in said landscape. So I think that it is very good and important. And the other part that you hit on, which I'm on the other side, right? I'm not a franchisee of myself. I'm a franchisor. And I want to create a mechanism for my franchisees to only have to focus on execution. And I'm going to share the franchisor side of that same challenge because I think it's a great dialogue for our community. We do all those things that you mentioned, so you only have to focus on execution. But most people who own franchises, yourself included, are entrepreneurs. And so, like anything with execution, eat healthy, execute on trying to get healthy, focus on your diet. There is eggs are good for me, eggs are bad for me. There are how we do these things, and then that becomes based on where you are in the country, your beliefs, your upbringing, your exposure, what you've been, who's in your network. So is personal branding important for a franchisee in his local or her local community? How much should you donate to the charities in your local community? Should you be focused on giving and worrying about each penny? Is customer service the most important thing, or should you be laser focused on cost of goods? And those little variables dictate their relationship with the franchisor, our relationship with the franchisee. As a franchisee and someone who works with so many franchisees, I'd love your perspective on the entrepreneur who is a franchisee having to do something that goes against or maybe is the antithesis of their belief on how this should be executed. Because I don't care what brand you are, whether you're McDonald's down to a brand new one, there are going to be a point where there is something you disagree with that or you have to do because of the guardrails. Like, I don't understand why if I'm in the middle of the desert driving on a 2-lane road with no cars, there's a speed limit. There's nobody out there. I still have to follow it, right? So I'm assuming in your experience, even with Midas, there are those moments. What do you how would you address that as a franchisee coach?
I think that's kind of the element of what you talked about is where the creativity and the individualism of the owner really comes into play. To be able to make those decisions to say, hey, I'm really passionate. Even in Midas, there's a guy who's super passionate about the food bank and blood drives, and he spends a ton of time, effort, and money in his community building food banks. And he also happens to run the number one store in the country, right? And he's highly involved in the community. He's on the radio. And then there's other people that say, I want to duplicate that success. So I'm going to go do food banks and blood drives and these things. And maybe don't also duplicate the success, because it's that's not why he's successful, but that's part of what he is and his passion and his drive and so I think there's elements. Then I also think, as a franchisee, there's certain things of the business that we personally really focus on. In the Midas business, for example, we're big into consumer financing. Car repair is expensive. People don't expect to spend $1,000 when they come in. And if we have tools that can help them make it affordable. And so for us, it's one of our core pillars as a, franchise, company, my 33 stores, that, we have goals, we have targets, we have trainings, internally, aside from whatever the franchisor wants us to do. We're hyper focused on that because, we have a bunch of data that says if people do financing, they're going to spend double and they come back double. And so I think there's elements there that, yes, we have to stay within the rules, but then also, for you to have a bunch of, driven creative franchisees who are still operating within the guidelines to be able to, pull that thread and, see how good it could be. And then, even that, the franchise, the financing example, now, system wide, it is a bigger focus on Midas because of, our effort and drive to prove, this is something that we should be working on. And so that's the balance of it, I think, is, you obviously have a system that works, but there's also, people who are in there trying new things, and some things work. And I think that's a lot of the franchisor-franchisee relationship that matters, is that creativity and the give and the take. And, Munchkins were created by a franchisee, the Big Mac, the Filet-O-Fish. The list goes on, especially in the food world, of things that were created. And if a franchisor is super stringent and you must do it this way, and there's it's an iron fist model, I think they're going to miss out on the creativity that could come in some of the new things. And so
I agree wholeheartedly. And I was going to ask this question because of your role as a business coach consultant or franchise coach consultant. Would you say that the more creative and the more you articulated at the beginning so well that I don't care what I do. Give me a playbook. Let me go and execute.
Yep.
Would you agree or disagree that mindset is better suited to a more established franchise system than the one who wants to push the boundaries, pull the threads, be part of the creative side of developing said brand? Because I don't know the last McDonald's product by a franchisee, but in that first 20 years, it was a lot of it.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm asking I'm not leading you.
I
I'm
understand.
trying to ask the question.
So we work with a lot of people who are getting into early stage brands, franchisee number 1, franchisee number 20, franchisee maybe number 50. So we work with a lot of people.
Is your definition of early what? Just so we all understand.
number of units.
Yeah, is there? But where would you call early? Till
100.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of depends on the model. I mean, you with real estate, 100's more impressive than territory based that can sell and just whatever. It's a little bit different. But so a lot of what we talk about is for people. People have to want to get in with an early stage brand and know that, hey, this plane that you're getting on is being built in the air.
Yep.
And you have to want to be part of, it's a startup culture, right? Where yes, there a lot of the skeleton is built, but it's not fully fleshed out. And things are going to change. And you may change your point of sale. You may change this. You may change marketing agencies. And your ideas are going to be heard too, because they want that feedback, right? They want a fast loop. And their success is highly dependent on those early franchisees having success. Because if your first X amount aren't successful, it's going to be really hard to validate it for future ones. And so you have a goal of 1,000 units or whatever it is. If your first 20, 30, 50, whatever aren't crushing it, you're gonna stall out right there.
That's right.
And so there's risk on the franchisee side, but there's also a tremendous amount of risk on the franchisor to make sure they pick the right people, properly support them, properly set expectations that this is not McDonald's, this isn't, everything's not perfect, and trusting that the right people are at the helm and they have everybody's best interests at heart, and they really care about making the franchisees profitable, not just selling units and then selling the company to a private equity company and moving on to the next deal.
What would you say is the biggest upside for the individuals who want to take that risk as a franchisee, and why would anybody? Because if I don't know what the upside is, then I would say, well, great, I'll wait for
the next one.
I'll wait for stability. And de-risk.
I mean, there's a number of things. One, if you live in a hot market, you live in Nashville or Austin or Charlotte, all the brands sell out pretty quickly, and so that's usually a big challenge. It's just they want to get in the game, and these things go like that. And so sometimes it's situational. You live in a good market, you got to be able to move pretty quick.
And I guess that would also apply even to secondary and third markets because of geography, right?
Yep.
There's McDonald's in everywhere, but there might not be blank.
Yep. So there's that component. Generally, they'll get more favorable terms, whether that's on a development schedule, whether that is, in territory-based businesses, it could just be the larger territories. In yours, maybe they get a bigger radius, whatever it is. And then it's the other, which, maybe you can't quantify as much, but it is that the franchisor really needs them to succeed. And so they would probably get an outsized amount of support than, franchisee number 115 or whatever it is.
Sure.
Because at that point, it's more systematized. Maybe it's more LMS based. Maybe it's more, whatever, versus those first people, it's probably really hands-on. I mean, I'm sure you were actively texting and calling and celebrating wins with your first few.
Still are.
And to really make sure you get momentum. And so I think that's a big part of it. And then it's some people just that's what they want. They want to be in the startup culture. They want to be an early person. And versus you get into a neighborly brand or McDonald's or Wingstop or whatever, it's, everything is what it is. You may have an opinion of things, but that's nice. You can have that opinion. And that's as far as it goes.
There's a huge benefit to that too, which I think shouldn't be overstated, even though I don't have a brand that size yet. My goal is to become that. And I think you articulated it well at the beginning, which is the guardrails are there. I get to focus on execution inside of these guardrails, and there's a higher certainty of making a bigger return, albeit maybe less opportunity for more, right? You might get a McDonald's, good luck getting 50. You'd have to buy them in the secondary market in most cities in America. I don't know where McDonald's is expanding outside of China currently, but you'd have to go buy them from existing friends. So if I came to you, and by the way, this is a service that more people should take advantage of, leveraging someone like yourself and the idea that there are consultants and coaches that are paid for not by you, kind of like a real estate broker, right?
Yep,
When you're going to go buy a home.
Like a buy-side
yes.
real estate agent. Yep.
Yeah, buy-side real estate agent that is going to show me homes, know the market, give me the information I may or may not have. Your expertise dealing with franchisors like me, you're going to help coach them to find the right franchise environment and then brand that meets their needs. Because someone who just wants to come in and say, I don't want to have any creativity, I don't want as much risk, I want an exact blueprint, I want a McDonald's playbook, Everbowl's probably not the right fit today, even though I wish we were there and we're working towards it. But there are neighborly brands in those. Yep. And so for those who are listening are going, gosh, the idea of all that excess risk, the startup culture, the building the plane while it's flying sounds terrifying. You would obviously probably lead them more to
to a more established brand that may have less options, right, in terms of what's available, or it's trying to find a resale of somebody who's looking to get out. Because, in most franchise systems, franchisees want to sell to other franchisees.
Yep.
It's convenient, it's quick, there's synergies, like there's a lot of benefits. So as a franchisee, if you get your foot in the door, you become known, you become trusted. That's how you get deals done, right? And so there's all these people who reach out and say, hey, I want to buy an existing profitable, multi-unit franchise. And it's like, the good ones, like if I'm a franchisee, that's how I bought all mine, is because they all knew me, they trusted me. As soon as they wanted to sell, they knew I'm a buyer. Those things, I was literally the only person that they talked to.
Because, it makes sense because you don't have to learn they don't have to explain to you what being a franchisee of the system
or the
is,
risk, or
get approved by franchisor.
Yep, or any of it. And so, and package of deals. They have a couple good ones, a couple bad ones, and as somebody who's in the system, I know that I can look at it. It's an easy decision for me.
Yep.
Versus an outsider, they come in, they're going to nitpick, and I don't want to buy this one, I don't want to buy that one. What's this one? It's like, why would you deal with all that if you can get the price you want, the terms you want, like you're happy with the deal. And for me, I'm happy with the deal because I have a lot of synergies for me to grow. And so I think that's a big part of it, is that if you can get into a system, you come known, like, and trusted, build the relationships with people, and then you can grow through acquisition, and that's how you get in there. But it's hard if you say, hey, I want to get into an established brand, to work your way in, because you're competing with a bunch of people who they're friends with. Yes. Like, unless you're willing to pay a price that none of their friends are willing to pay.
Like, it is hard to go buy a McDonald's today.
Yeah, it's impossible. It's impossible.
Damn near impossible.
It's impossible.
Even if you want to.
Yeah. And they're like tier, A+ brand. I mean, you go down the list.
No, yeah, but I'm using them to further cement the point.
Yeah.
Because it's a great example of that I don't care how wealthy you are, if you don't know the right person to buy a McDonald's, that you cannot do it.
Yeah. And a lot of the franchises become multi-generational too. Even in the McDonald's system, obviously older brands have that. The Mighty's like, I'm second generation. My dad had a few. Yep. I took them over, and we've significantly
and maybe your
grown
kids
it.
One day.
Yeah, you never know. Even I talked to a guy who was a pizza franchisee, and his dad was the first franchisee in a concept, and for many years, and then he joined the business very similar to me. He learned it, started from the ground up. But as a kid, he worked in the stores, like sweeping the floors, making the pizza, the register, delivering the pizza, eventually managing a store, like. So as a someone with I have young daughters, and to have them to actually grow up and work in the business and learn what it's like at every level.
Yep.
There's like a lot of life skills, right, in terms of being a business owner and an entrepreneur, and then you get to join this network, and it's not like knowledge of a single small business owner have to remember to transfer all that knowledge to their kid. They join this network, right, and there's groupthink, and then there's corporate training, and there's other franchisees, and so. The brands that have been around for a while, a lot of the people running them are in this multi-generational, or it's like the kids are then buying out all the boomers who then kids are not involved in the business, right? Mm-hmm. And so then the big franchisees just get bigger, and then they also get to start to, once you're in the game, you're able to establish your leadership team, the ability to then go out and buy more brands and expand just in different, arenas becomes easier.
And one of the things why I was so excited for today's conversation, and it's actually a phrase that you say of why franchising is valuable, the ability to compress decades into days.
Yep.
That's my man Brian's line, great line. But working with you in that network while you are evaluating franchise is kind of the same thing. You may not realize that about yourself, but just hearing and having gotten to talk to you pre us getting to hang in person and then in my office prior, you're also doing that because you're helping a prospective franchisee. You're brand agnostic, which means you don't care which brand they choose. You're just helping, and you're compressing the
learning process.
The learning process of decades and years into hopefully hours and days to what to ask, why to ask. Because I know, like, I get franchise requests from someone who has already filled out a form, which means they've already made that decision to evaluate Everbowl. But zero to that moment, I'm not part of that experience that you are with so many people. So you are very aware of the questions and how they should be thinking about it and evaluating, and not a lot of times people, I think, get enamored with a product, right? Oh my God, I love Starbucks. Can I open a Starbucks franchise? They're not really franchised, but I'm going to say a product that is so adamantly loved. Or Chipotle, same thing. They're not really franchised. Chick-fil-A.
Yep.
Weird franchise model. Not technically franchised in the traditional model either, but you see a Chick-fil-A, like, I want to own one of those. How much would you say that the product itself is a good indicator of success? Meaning, if two franchisees got the exact same company, take Midas, because you know it better, or Everbowl if you don't want to speak about your own, and they have different skill sets, different approach, but everything else is the same, how different would you project their results would be?
Oh, so I'm gonna go out a little different. Okay. So I tell people, don't follow your passion. Okay. All right. So if you like, I don't care about cars. I'm not a car guy. Yet we own a bunch of auto repair shops.
Sure.
I find that the people in the franchisees that I know who are car guys get focused. Instead of growing the business, they're focused on the cars and the new technology, and they're like, want to literally get under the hood and try to like fix it. And like, someone who is maybe extremely passionate about an Everbowl may be more interested in, serving the product or trying it, or like, I don't know. They're more focused on the product.
They want to focus on
food and the nutritional things, like whatever, all these different things, versus someone who cares about the business to say, so I try to look at it and say, what are the challenges that this business has, and then do my skill sets, match, the challenges that this thing has. So I look at it from that approach. So in the Midas business, like, our challenges are, we got to generate leads. We got to turn those leads into estimates. We got to hire great technicians. We have to create a culture that wants them to stay. We obviously have cash flow and banking and all the business stuff on the back end. But those are the challenges that I want to solve, right? It's how do we drive sales? How do we, create a great culture for that people want to be in? Mm-hmm. And if I can nail those two things, it doesn't matter that where it's auto repair or, anything else that meets those skills. In an Everbowl, and I'm just taking some guesses here, but like the skill set is, leadership, right? So it's going to be a team, right? I would imagine a number of people or younger who are working there, maybe not their first job, but like in the early stages of their career. And so I think you'd have to be a really good leader and being able to have some patience with some kids to like talk about, showing up on time and here's the process. This is why we have to follow it. And, you have to have that patience to want to work with, those types of employees. Mm-hmm. And if you go into that thinking, hey, I'm really good, I want to inspire these kids, I want to create a path for them that someone could get into my organization and they could rise from, a cashier to an assistant manager to manager to I'm going to have multiple stores to regional manager. And like if that type of thing excites you, then, Everbowl could be a great option.
I got a hoodie for you now. You just earned an Everbowl hoodie.
There you go.
I love it.
So that's what we talk about is like, what are your goals? Like, why are you trying to like buy a franchise but really the franchise is just a vehicle. Like people that work with us, they have a destination they're trying to get to, a certain amount of income, a lifestyle. A lot of it, is, they want more flexibility. They want to spend time with their kids. They don't want to sit behind a computer all day. And so they have like certain goals they're trying to achieve. Then it's like, does this thing get me to where I want to go at the speed that I want to get there?
Yep.
And so if it's going to take me 10 years to get there, like maybe that's too long. Maybe I want to get there in 5 years. Maybe I want to get there in 3 years. And then franchising helps because of that compression where there's not this big learning curve. And so that's what we work with. Hey, where do you want to go? Get super clear on that. I love the book Vivid Vision, Cameron Herold. So it's like we try to people to do that exercise. Then it's like, what are your skills? Like, what are you naturally good at? Whether that's driving sales, leading a team, managing
real estate,
people. Yeah, they like real estate and they like numbers and stuff. But there's some people who say, I don't really want that many employees, right? Or they don't want to work in the trades. They'd rather work with like in a more professional setting. So those are some of the elements we'd have people look at. Because at the end of the day, like they're going to become a franchisee, they should eat, sleep, and breathe the business, right? It's like, at least, those are the things they're thinking through, is like, what can I do to grow this? How can I get more involved in the community? How can we, create a better environment for our people? How can we reduce turnover, right? There's like, those are those challenges that should be in your head, these questions that you need to think about. And like, your skills should align with those. Because if they don't, if every day you wake up, man, like, I hate this stupid job, I hate these kids, everyone keeps calling out, like, if you start playing the victim, right, and you're upset at the challenges, like, you're not gonna be successful. It's gonna burn you out. But if like every day you're fired up and be like, man, I'm so excited, like, I just, so-and-so just passed their thing, right, because you're working with all these kids and trying to help them like improve their careers, and they have goals to go off to college, and you're supporting that, right? And those kids are then referring their friends to take their spots, and right, like, I think those are the types of challenges I would think through, that I'd be, if I was really excited about that, then Everbolt would probably be a perfect fit.
I mean,
does that sound accurate?
I mean, that's one of them, definitely. I mean, obviously the lower cost of entry.
Well, there's the business stuff.
Yeah, the business stuff. But I would say the thing that I have found with both from the WeBuild side, because I work with a lot of franchisees and other brands, not on the consulting coaching side to get them in, but to take them from lease signing to open. And on the Everbolt side is sometimes franchisees forget that every business, and I don't care if you are McDonald's or Everbolt or Midas or Apple, NVIDIA or Tesla, the challenges are always going to be there. And just because you buy a franchise does not mean there aren't business challenges. So to your point of, if you are not going to enjoy the challenge of that industry or that business, whatever those are, and they don't match a skill set that you are comfortable with, that's where I feel that victim, resentment, frustration gets, because it's still a business. And it's like, you can have the greatest children in the world. Children are going to have tantrums. Children are going to get sick. It is going to disrupt your life in a way that isn't going to allow you to just be for yourself. Business ownership is the same thing, regardless franchise or not. And so that's why I really like how you really hit on that connection.
The other phrase we talk about is it's simple, but it's not easy.
Yes.
Right? I think people confuse that a lot. They think, because it's simple, because you're going to give me the playbook, because I have all the support, that it will be easy, which means without effort, right? That I can just open an Everbolt and it will just print money and just shows up on the 15th every month, or like, they think it's like real estate, right? Where there's just like predetermined ROI or IRR.
But even real estate isn't that easy.
Right? No.
Tenants don't pay rent.
That's right. And you have
Roofs
problems.
collapse. Air conditionings go out. Hurricanes, fires, insurance. I mean, things, that's my point, is no matter what you do to generate money, if it was literally easy and simple and everything in between, there wouldn't be much to make, because everybody would be doing it, right?
All the private equity companies would own it all, and they would just print money, and it would be, it wouldn't be a franchise. Like, the whole point of franchise is because it's not easy. You need local ownership. You need people who care. You guys simplify the process to make less things that you have to focus on, but then you still got to, I always describe it, it's like, you give the map, you get like the toolbox, like, you like give the instructions, the coaching, but like someone still has to build the house, right?
Well, it's like a chef, right? Chefs have recipes. I am not a chef. You give me the recipe, it will not taste as good as a real chef, right? McDonald's, I think, really set that standard, because to be a franchisee at McDonald's, you had to work in the store for a minimum of 1 year, even back when. I don't know when that started exactly, but for a very long time, that has been a prerequisite. And I got a bunch of friends who own McDonald's, and these are eight-figure millionaire families, and they came from money when they started. And jokingly, you think, why would someone who's worth $25 million spend a year serving French fries in the McDonald's itself? But you hit at the beginning, you're buying into their business. So whether or not you're going to do it long term, they need you to understand what goes on, live, breathe, and eat it. And if they're going to give you that territory and give you the privilege of stewarding the brand as the brand ambassador and building an organization, if you've never done it, if you don't understand it, if you're so absentee-minded from it that you think you just, if I build it, it prints money, they wouldn't be McDonald's. So I really think that's an important thing for prospective franchisees, and that's why, for those who are listening and saying, "Hey, I really want to get into that franchising game because I want to own and operate my own business. I want to take control of my financial freedom, and I don't want to deal with the startup idea of brand new idea in a competitive space. I want camaraderie and I want SOPs and I want to compress decades into days." They just don't know those next questions to self-evaluate, and I love that you are providing that opportunity for coaching and consulting them without them having to shell out money ahead of it, that you are saying, I'm going to help you get into the right system and don't worry about the costs. I'll deal with that. My job is to make sure that I fit you right. That is such a easy thing for everybody listening, because sometimes you hear that word coaching and you go, well, how much does that cost? And I can't afford that. And I don't want to pay somebody to teach me something and then I still got to go execute it on my own. That's not the way this is. And so that's why this is such a untapped, unused avenue. When I say that, a lot of people do use it, but not enough.
Yep.
And that is something that I think if you're listening to this, yes, of course, I want you to explore Everbowl, but if it's not, if you are not trying to accomplish or the challenges of an Everbowl are not what you're looking for, that's why you go to someone like Brian and get involved in the community. And then fast forward, once you're there, the 8-figure franchisee community, whether it's the coaching calls, the camaraderie, the groupthink, the masterminds in person, that's part of that ecosystem. It's also exposing you to what other brands are doing.
Yep.
Giving you that opportunity if you want to be a multi-brand franchisee.
Yep.
And so I encourage everybody to really spend some time and explore this opportunity, not just with, obviously with Brian, because he's the best, but if for whatever reason that's not the right fit, this environment, this idea that you can get education and curated franchise opportunity for you, not just what you know, expose yourself to the questions. So when you call me and fill out my form, you're asking me the right questions. Because I say this to every prospective franchisee I speak to, 100% of them. First call, I'll say, Brian, excited to talk to you about it. Let's go through this process, and both of us should scrutinize this and try to find a reason not to move forward. Me as a franchisor, I should look for a reason why you're not a good franchisee, and you should look for a reason why Everbowl's not the right fit. If we get to the end of the road and we haven't found it, let's do business.
Yeah, it's good.
Right?
It's a good one.
I say it to every single prospective franchisee who's talked to me, has heard that line. Because it is a business, it is a partnership, it is a family, and we are tied together for an extended period of time, and we are both exerting a lot of resources, your capital and time, my team's time, and my brand's reputation. And so we should find those reasons, because when you're excited, you tend to overlook what might be like a little pebble in your shoe for one step. You're like, whatever. Walk 10 miles with that pebble in your shoe. A gnat at a barbecue. 1 second. It doesn't matter. A mosquito. Okay, big deal. Spend the night with it. See how you feel the next day, right? Like there are those things and we tend to overlook them because we are excited or we are encouraged. How much of the time do you speak with somebody and your gut tells you they shouldn't franchise and maybe you push them away from the industry?
Yeah, it's more the expectations of the people that, I attract a lot of higher net worth, people that they have a background in private equity investment banking or something like that. And, they want to, their real goal is they have capital that they want to deploy, that they want to get a return on. And it's usually those guys it's kind of like, well, listen, like you need, like they don't want to be the boots on the ground. They don't want to be the McDonald's, French fry guy or whatever. And so my advice is more to them to say, hey, you really need to go out and find an operating partner, someone that you can have, potentially, they should have equity, skin in the game, but who is willing to be the person who's going to eat, sleep, and breathe the business. And so that's normally the person that I'm kind of saying, like, it's not just it's not just this place where you go and deploy capital. Yeah. It can be later. I mean, that's how I view my business now. It's, we're looking at where do we get the best return on our money as we acquire more Midas shops, as we expand into new brands, as we partner. I partner with a number of franchisees as I'm starting to invest into franchisors. So, but like I'm in the game, right? And I've been in the game. I know it's hard from an outsider perspective to off the bat be at my level, who hasn't like done the time. And so usually it's those people. I say, hey, go out, find an operating partner, and then let's talk.
Yeah, and then outside of just jumping in and working with you, you also are now creating and have been creating a ton of content that is available just by going to that good old Google and YouTube.
That's right. Yeah.
What is the main? Because I've seen a lot of your stuff. It's a lot less on why franchise and more on a different side of business. Why are you focusing that area more outside of the basic blocking and tackling of franchising?
Yeah, so I've been on this content journey for about 2 years now, and it's evolved as you test different things and you see where you fit. I find that a lot of people, back to like they know where they want to go, but it's this question of what vehicle am I going to use to get there. And a lot of people have misconceptions about franchising, positive or negative. They think it's only McDonald's, right? And that you need a ton of money and it's impossible to get in. Or they think it's like chuck in a truck, you buy yourselves a job and to make $100K a year or whatever. Yep. and you're like a corporate minion. But what 99% of people don't realize is this whole world in the middle that you live in, that I live in, where, ordinary people can get into this thing with not a ton of money, because the SBA is like super friendly with financing and stuff. And then they can do the work to build this empire. And so I try to go at about the approach of like, I want to speak to the people who are looking for that vehicle of where they want to go. And hopefully I can talk about some things that flip that light bulb on and say, wow, I didn't think about franchising like that. Or, I come at it at a different angle that they haven't heard before, and I can speak from experience because, we operate a pretty large company. And then that like brings them into my world. And then we can get into the nitty gritty stuff and all the like, how do you do diligence? How do you find a brand? Like, what are these things you look for? But the truth is, like, no one's searching for that unless you're already down the rabbit hole. You're not looking for franchise specific things, but by opening the aperture a little bit, I can bring the people in who are problem aware, but they don't have a solution.
Yeah.
And it is a harder game to play with, right? Because you're competing against anybody who sells courses and buy to business and ETA and all these things. And so it's about trying to find the right voice and speaking to the right people. And so,
sure. But it's probably a great aggregator of conversation, right? Like, instead of, because you're not funneling them into some specific product. That's not the purpose. Like you said, you're trying to expose people to a bigger conversation, to then expand the idea, to then allow them to get into the ecosystem. And then what I love, because I'm a vertical integration guy, and you said at the beginning,
I'm vertically. Yep.
It's all of that for me.
We operate, get them in, help them grow it, partner with them, and for us, it's totally vertical, and the content's the spark of it all. But I want to be on every step of the journey.
Mm-hmm. And you said this earlier about you encourage people not to chase their passion, which I agree 98.9% of. Obviously,
because that passion could die too,
of course.
Right? And then
I'm with
it's
you.
not as fun anymore.
By the way, I jump from industry to industry, no experience, I'm not a chef. I do construction. I'm not a build anything. I don't love payroll, even though, and I don't love HR.
Yeah.
Digital marketing was not really my fave. I do love acai and superfoods, but that's just because I'm a foodie, but I'm not a chef, right? I don't ever want to own restaurants. But when I am on a call, and a lot of times I'm having these with, a lot of our professional athletes who have bought into the system, or ones that I have pushed and said, wait, there's quite a lot of big time names in NFL and NBA that have approached, and I tell them, wait, because you don't have infrastructure. Jason Tatum was the same. I met him 2 years before we did our deal and said, we need to get an operational infrastructure together, or a concept, before you're not going to own and operate these, Jason. And we can't just have anybody running these stores, right? Where Drew Brees had his roommate from college who is his partner on Jimmy John's and Walk-Ons and Smalls and these other brands, and he runs that part. So Drew isn't having to make acai bowls every day. He owns 160 Ever Bowls now. It didn't start there, right? But he was able to put it into that ecosystem, that infrastructure. And so that vertical integration component, that's what I spend most of my time talking about too with these people. It's not acai and Everbowl. I say, what is Everbowl? We are a system to grow and scale franchises and build out that and generate that wealth creation that you're trying to accomplish, because we focus on that entire life cycle, like what you're doing, from the real estate in-house to the manufacturing, construction, and fabrication of the trade in-house, and doing all those things, content studio to create, like you're here, you see it.
Yeah.
That's what we're showing, because whether or not you sell an acai bowl, we're called Everbowl for a reason. Are we acai today? 100%. If tomorrow some brand new study showed that acai causes blank and we had to stop selling it.
You get into a rice pudding bowl?
I mean, theoretically, we are a quick serve restaurant focusing on better for you products in a bowl, at our core. Now, we believe the best way to do that in the market today is with acai, pitaya, and all of these super food and super fruit bowls. But as we look at R&D and menu extensions and focus on where the consumer is going and what is new research and not just fads and trends, but where that consumer, if you think about, it started with frozen yogurt, because back in the 90s, frozen yogurt was good for you and you don't get fat, and even Seinfeld made funny episodes about it. Then it went to heavy juicing, and then our smoothies, and then it went to juicing, and now we're in bowls. The consumer is going to continue, and brands have to continue to evolve their menu, right? It can't always just stay where it is. McDonald's started as a hamburger place, and today they have Filet-O-Fish and McRib, and they used to have salads, and I don't know if they still do.
They had pizza at one point.
Yeah, they had pizza at one point. the idea there is that the brand itself is yes, we are known and should be known, and that's what we do today, and we do it remarkably well. But vertical integration allows you to solve the problems and see the entire system versus just being a restaurant at the back end that says, sign our franchise agreement, figure out your real estate, here's some ideas, figure out construction, here's your ideas, here's the products we want, go source them. And there's just less of an actual organizational structure. McDonald's is very well vertically integrated. It's kind of the model I've used. That was a long-winded way to get to what you're doing, which is why I think working with you is very interesting, both from my side and full disclosure. I want to have a conversation with Brian to work and compensate him to help bring us great qualified leads, to help us circumvent are you the right fit, and make sure that people who come should have more of a affinity to what we offer because they've been, but then for those who are like, well, I can just go on a forum, why would I need Brian? Because you can learn about information for free through the YouTube channels and his Twitters. You can have the bigger conversations. He's thinking about and vertically integrated all of the steps in the journey on that side of the equation. And I can't overstate the value proposition there, and it's free. And I say free because sometimes a price prevents people from being exposed to it. It's not free. You're going to give up your time to learn, but that is the most important thing, because once you pick that brand, whether it's Midas, Everbowl, Crumble Cookie, Chuck in a Truck, whatever fitness brand, a salon, whatever it is that you're doing, it's not very easy to unwind and unring that bell.
Yep.
Real money has traded hands. Real time commitments have traded hands. And so if the idea of compressing decades into days at the franchisor level is valuable, then picking the franchise could take you 2 years, a year, 6 months, however much time you're willing to invest. And your organization as a whole is compressing that experience down to sniper.
Yep.
And so in a way, you kind of are providing the franchisor offering without charging them a royalty or a fee up front. And that's amazing. But the segue next that I wanted to ask you is, because the number one thing I always get asked by people who are exploring franchising, I still get this royalty thing. Like, why should I pay a royalty? And as a franchisor, I try to explain to them, you're paying for all the services, and if you try to hire them all yourself, it's way more than that until you hit a certain scale. Maybe it's 33 Midases, maybe it's 53 Midases, or maybe it's 12. I don't know. What do you say to yourself as a franchisee of Midas who pays a royalty, and to franchisee interested individuals who come to you, the value proposition or lack thereof of a royalty?
I mean, for the best brands, you should feel like you're getting a deal. Like you're getting twice the value that you're paying, if not more. And so,
and how would you quantify that? Like what? I know I don't mean a very specific thing, but I mean like, what do you feel the best ones do really well to warrant the royalty?
I think it's a couple things. One is, what does the ongoing support and community look like, right? Because someone comes here, they go to training, they go back, they're all fired up, like you get started, but then there's just ongoing, like you have this problem, how do I deal with this? Like you want to be part of a community, right? Of franchisees. You mentioned yours, or they're very active. You have once a quarter, all the best franchisees or select franchisees come to share ideas and what's working and what's not. And so like there's this, even with you guys, it's this evolution of everyone in the community is trying to improve their business and is more than happy to share those ideas with everyone else, because the rising tide lifts all the boats. The better that, the Everbowl people in St. Louis do, and they shared this idea with the people in Philadelphia or whatever, like, and your AVUs go up, you have more marketing dollars, you attract bigger players, hopefully your supply chain costs go down. Like there's lots of synergies as a brand grows, national partnerships, and there's tons of them. And so, part of like paying that fee is being access to this community where you get to join this thing and you're never alone if you choose to be, and you choose to be active, right?
Sure.
So that's a big part of it. I think for some brands, if they said, hey, I'm going to go on my own and open up my own acai bowl concept called Brian Bowl or whatever it was, like, could you, like, how much of that, what do you charge, 6%? 6%. Okay. So like if I went to manufacturers or distributors to try to, get pricing on it, like how much more of a premium I'm going to pay as a single guy versus, you through your national partnerships in 100 plus locations, right? Like it might actually be 6%, right? I don't know. Maybe it's 3%. It's like there's some sort of arbitrage there from a direct cost savings. Not every brand has that. Obviously, if you're service-based, you don't have that. But so then we get down to, okay, maybe it's 3%. So now my cost is 3% of my sales to be part of this community, to have this turnkey stuff. For me, it's like
But do you not put a, because you went to the food side, which is,
But even Midas. So like Midas, I mean, it's, a more established brand, but I can open up, I'm looking at opening up, let's say 3 new locations this year.
Yeah.
From like scratch. And like, I know on day one that people we're going to have the phone ringing and we're going to do business on day one. And I also know in a real estate based concept like Midas, it is really hard to find good real estate. I mean, it's
hard in every industry.
84,000 square foot of ideally second gen automotive on a major road next to like a Taco Bell that is at least 15 minutes from the next one. Like, and there's pockets of zoning and there's like tons of stuff that we deal with. And so, if I was Brian's Automotive and I picked the wrong spot that was like off the beaten path or like wherever, like people aren't coming to me on day one because they don't know the name. B, like if I pick the wrong spot that doesn't have a ton of traffic, like that is going to hurt me way more. In our business, it's 5. It's going to cost me way more than 5%. And so, with the brand, like they're going to help me. They have this fancy real estate software. That sounds like you have something same that drops all these seed points and tells us we think this will be good or we think this will not be good for all these reasons. Looking at co-locators and demographics and like all this really fancy stuff. And if we go ahead and we make a decision one way or another, like the impact of that is way more than the $50,000 or whatever I'd pay them for the year to run that store.
Yeah.
And so. I view it as, I mean, even our company, like we do $45 million last year on the Midas side. Our goal is 55 this year through a few acquisitions and some development. But like, we'll pay whatever that is, $2.5 million in royalties. But like there's no way that, our company would be the size it was if it wasn't a Midas.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, for me, it's, we take dollars to the bank. We don't take percentages. So yeah, maybe I could make another 5% more and make 18% instead of 13%, but of $2 million instead of $50 million.
And as a franchisor, so this is very self-serving, but I was an owner-operator first. I can tell you, well, you just hit on some. I'll give you all, and you tell me if you agree or disagree. But will you be able to charge what you charge if it's Brian's Bulls versus Everbull or Brian's Automotive versus Midas? Will you be able to attract the same number of customers that have brand affinity to Midas, but you're Brian's Automotive? So I may or may not want to trust my car to a no-name automotive shop compared to a national name. Number 3, when you call that landlord and we're all fighting for the good location, I can guarantee you when I had 6 locations of Everbull and I was a sole operator, I lost out on such good real estate to bigger brands that the landlord had more confidence because of the name recognition. When you call Midas and you need some marketing collateral or content created for your ads, for hiring, for SOPs, to hire somebody yourself is going to cost you money. When you need the support for training, it's going to cost you more. If you had an issue with a finance package or a tech stack, me calling a point of sale system with 5 Everbulls, the cost I'm going to pay for that is going to be significantly higher than the fact that I can get equipment for free because they want my business and I can pass that to the franchisee. So the banking relationships, the insurance, the master insurance, the distribution, all of these elements are overlooked, I think, and I overlooked them too. Full disclosure. I used to say, why would anybody pay a royalty? Back long before I was ever going to franchise. It didn't make sense to me, but I didn't realize I didn't have the exposure to what I was getting because I wasn't doing it. I wasn't explained it. And so there will be a point, if you had 200 Midases, maybe it would be more cost effective, but I'll say it again, you couldn't have 200
that's the
Brian's Automotive.
It's the chicken and the egg.
It's the chicken and the egg.
To be at that size.
The goal is to make it to where you are overpaying. That means you're winning, right? If you have enough Midases to where the royalty is so much bigger than what you could have done it yourself, that means that you are making so much damn money that you have the ability to look at that and say, oh my gosh, imagine. But it's not even a real fair imagine. So I wanted to hit that because I get a lot about royalty, and I know a lot of people who are, I would franchise, but the idea of this royalty, like, I get what Brian's saying. It's a great model, but this concept, I mean, just basic math, guys, like, every $1 million is going to cost you $50,000 or $60,000, 6%, 5%. So if you do $1 million with an Everbull and you're paying $60,000 for my infrastructure, and when you guys come, you'll see it all, you couldn't get these services for $60,000. You could go and pay $60,000 and you would not get anywhere near what we offer for that. Now, does that mean we are great at everything we do? No. Are we improving? Yes. Are we as good as Midas? Probably not. They have the Midas touch. I'm working on it. But in that same vanity and same vein, there is extreme value in it's kind of like, why doesn't you self-insure? Right?
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Because, my house isn't going to burn down, and it's never burned down I've owned it for 16 years. But if I had that argument in LA in the Palisades right now, I might be out of a $9 million house because I didn't have the insurance. So for 25, 30 years, it might have been expensive insurance, but then $3,000 a year times 25 years is 75 grand or whatever it is. And then you now don't have to rebuild a $9 million home. So I think that there is value in the community, obviously. So I don't want royalties to be a prohibitor if you're sitting here listening and saying, this all sounds amazing, but you should really look into a little deeper because it should be cheap. To your point, you should get more value, and a good franchisor should be held accountable to that. Because there are some franchisors, and I'm not picking on anyone specifically that I know, that have no infrastructure and are just trying to collect the royalty because they don't have enough money yet to hire those people. So there is a little chicken and egg at the franchisor level. So one question I encourage everyone to ask, whether it's Everbull or anyone else, is what does your infrastructure look like? What services am I specifically getting for my royalty? Do I have to do my own complete marketing and build all my digital assets and creative assets on my own? Is real estate 100% in my bucket? How are you helping me on food costs? How are you helping me on construction-related matters? How are you helping me on repairs, equipment, training, hiring, recruiting? If there's no answers, the royalty is too expensive. Don't pay it, right?
Yep.
Did I hit that pretty well?
Yeah.
Do I get a job over at the 8-Figure Franchisee?
That's right. We'll get you on.
Do I get a shirt too?
Yeah, we'll make one. You get a Yeti cup.
I'll make a shirt.
Yeah.
I have a shirt company.
Okay, that's right.
But I think this is such an important conversation. I come at it again from the franchisor side. Would you ever be a franchisor?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What do you think the biggest challenge of being a franchisor would be?
I think a part of it is living up to building a company and living up to the expectations that you set with people. And I also think it's, being extremely picky with the franchisees that you select.
Yeah.
And, I know people can come off in the beginning as, there's somebody who, you think is going to be a really good franchisee. They have the money, they should have the experience, they talk about their team. And then, they don't turn out to be the person that they said they were. They go back to the victim mindset, and then now it's like, now you got this person or group of people who, aren't having success, and now you're like, now it's kind of on your it could feel like, for me, it would feel like it's on my shoulders, like I did a bad job, maybe even on the vetting process of setting proper expectations. But it's like a marriage, right? The franchisee is a marriage, and like once you sign, like the franchisee, they have a lot of flexibility in terms of what they can do and not do, and it's not so easy to just say, hey, get out of here. Like there's a ton of it there, and bad franchisees can be cancerous in a system, and
a lot of times they are,
and kill a lot of the things that you're in. A lot of good intentions that you have could get, if someone has, like, if there's this adversary relationship and they think everything you do is to, like, in spite of me, it could just create a ton of problems.
Yeah.
And so anyway, that's my concern. But I am invested into a franchisor. I'm on the cat table.
Oh, nice.
And working to help them grow it.
That's fantastic.
And so in an artificial turf business, and so it's the first one I just
What's
joined. It's called Waterloo Turf.
Okay.
And so I'm a board member and investor, and working to help get franchisees. We're going to be a franchisee ourselves. Actually, earlier today we interviewed a potential operating partner because I've got the same problem I talked about, which is I need somebody who's going to eat, sleep, and breathe the business. And
you don't have the bandwidth today.
Yeah, I personally don't. I never will, because I'm going to continue to try to sit similar to you. Like, I want to build the infrastructure within our organization, and if I can bring really good people into our world, and then we can provide operational structure, because we've got back office, and we've got financing, and we've got funding and internal coaching of partners. Yeah. Then we can build these different divisions, and it doesn't dilute my focus, as long as we have each people in these divisions who are it's 100% for them. Mm-hmm. And so, and even the content stuff, it attracts people into my world who want to work with me and want to be on the team. And anyway, so even as part of my evolution, it's, one of the next one is on the franchisor side, whether we're starting them, acquiring them, partnering with them. And then from our side of it's like, okay, if we can have a portfolio of brands that we're heavily involved with and we trust, and then we have people who want to look, and if, hey, there's a great fit, great. If not, like, we can help you find something that is. And then having the community that once people sign and they're in, they have a trusted peer group to advise them and coach them and just be part of it. So it's trying to create this whole ecosystem around it.
Yeah.
Because it's changed. Owning franchise has changed my life, many of my friends' life, and I just want to help more people achieve the same thing. So
Most of the wealthiest friends of mine own franchises. Shaquille O'Neal, Drew Brees.
yep, that's right.
Individuals who have made hundreds and hundreds, if not billions of dollars through their other craft, their main profession, own and operate and run franchises. And so I think also when you look at some of the biggest brands in the world, I mean, the Subways, the McDonald's, the Starbucks. Again, Starbucks isn't a franchise. Let me not use them. Subway, largest restaurant chain in the world. At their peak, I think they had 44,000 units.
Yeah, it's nuts.
It's franchise based.
So why do you think the athletes, I guess, specifically are attracted to Everbowl?
For a few reasons. The first is that they're athletes, so they're already focused on nutrition and health and wellness, and so they see it as, do I want to put myself on a company that is the antithesis of what I've lived, right?
Yeah.
So like,
So they don't want to be Baskin Robbins because
I mean, possibly. Like they some of them do, right? I mean,
Okay.
Shaq does Papa John's, right?
Okay.
Five Guys.
Yeah.
But the attraction to Everbowl for a few reasons. I mean, like Jason Tatum just did a release of a new Nike Jordan acai inspired,
saw that,
Everbowl
yep,
inspired
on
shoe.
Instagram,
Because he loves Everbowl, right? He's an investor on our cap table. He's a franchisee, and he wanted it on his shoe. He loves the product. He sees it as part of his life. It's a simplistic business model. So when you think about from someone who has a lot of money and wants to put it to work, there's a lot less things that can go wrong with an Everbowl. No hoods, no ovens, no cooking.
no cars falling off lifts.
Cars falling off lifts, very low insurance. Kids aren't burning themselves. You don't have inconsistency in product because they don't have to make it. You could train somebody in hours, not weeks, days, or need sophisticated licensing like, a hairstylist. You can't just hire me tomorrow to do that. Small footprint, very low cost of entry, exciting brand. Other athletes are involved. I have the relationships there, so now they're validated and part of it. Obviously, my team here and the infrastructure, and then you start to see what some of them have accomplished. Like, where Kobe Bryant made more with his body armor, even though that wasn't a franchise investment, than he did ever playing in the NBA. And 50 Cent made gazillions with vitamin water. So you see the ability to invest in
your personal brand
with their personal brand, their name, image, likeness. They have the influence and ability to not only get a lot of people to their stores and drive it. They have a lot of ability to attract world-class talent to run them, so they don't have to. They have the ability to negotiate stronger with franchisor to either get on a cap table and have a piece of the entirety of the business or negotiate better terms. And to your point, it's a system.
Yep. So your big athletes, are they on the cap table?
Not all of them, but a lot of them. Yeah. I mean, Drew is a investor in Everbowl, WeBuild, and everything in between. He's also my largest franchisee.
Yep.
And Tatum, I mean, he was like, hey, I want to...
Has he signed 5 units?
He's got 5 units and he's an investor. But like Drew, in 2018, Drew and I were talking about him not even... I wasn't even franchising, just being a brand ambassador. We couldn't work out a deal. But when I started to franchise, he literally called me. And I'll never forget it because for years we'd been chatting and we'd been talking about the brand. And in a way... I was not being as receptive as I could or should have been. And he was like, Jeff, let's cut through the bullshit. I want to be part of the brand. And I know you want a bigger commitment from me to know that I'm not just going to be getting a check to endorse a product. I don't want that.
Yep.
I never want that. So he said, I want to invest money in the parent. So I will put my money where my mouth is and help the entire company. I want to be your franchisee and I want to be a brand ambassador. Okay, now you're speaking my language, right?
Yeah, you're going to be all in.
Yeah, you're all in. And then the last component, I think, of why they're attracted to Everbowl is we're an exciting upstart, to your point of where we are in our ecosystem. I mean, I saw a stat, only 4% of franchises ever hit 100 units.
Yep.
So we're not quite there. Obviously, Drew's been in since the very beginning. Tatum just came in later, but we're not yet at 100. So once we do that, it's kind of to your point of scale, let's scale become more efficient and better. So we still have so much room where they could own 250 of ours. Like Shaq owns 55 this and 73 of this. And again, harder with the neighborly brands. So what are the neighborly brands of tomorrow and what can they be a part of? And, business is business. And it's the same attention in how we approach Everbowl is kind of how they approach their craft because we work with a lot of the mega stars, Super Bowl champions, NBA champion and Olympians, UFC champions. Like we work with guys and girls that are not yet champions, but obviously like attracts like I want the best, they want the best. So we approach our craft in the same way. We don't leave anything to chance. We're not victims. We work on everything. We're vertically integrated. The other component for like a Drew and a Tatum is Drew owns all these other brands. So he gets involved with Everbowl. We help open Everbowl. He makes money. He scales it. But then he learns about WeBuild. And then he now brings WeBuild over, and I'm building small sliders for him.
Yep.
Right? I'm building, I just built his new pickler, which is going to open, I don't know when it's going to air, so it will have already been open. We build stretch zones, which he's a part of. So he is now able to duplicate the value proposition of what we've built across more of his properties and use the same economies of scale and infrastructure you mentioned. And they're also friends, and I like to make friends, and I don't sell hard like that. I mean, I was just this season with I won't say who because he's not part of the thing, and I don't name drop till they do, but a quarterback who's currently playing in the NFL who made the playoffs, and he wanted to open Everbowls, and I said, not yet. Let's get through this. Let's get to the point where you are in a position to have an infrastructure, and if you don't have one, let's build one, like I did with Jason. Because I don't want to I'm not just here to sell you. If I wanted to just sell it, I could be a used car salesman. So I think athletes are attracted to that. We also have Tarek Al-Musa and Gary Vee who are part of the brand and on the cap table. We're bringing like minds. So to your point of fraternity of franchisees, we're also doing that fraternity of cap table, and they know each other.
Yep.
And so once you get a few that validate it and it's successful, they want more. And then my franchisees get to be partners with them because Drew controls 13 states.
Yep.
So you get to be partners with Drew in those states. And so that's our approach, which is bringing rock stars together and building a dream team. And I think they like the approach.
How do you think for like the NFL quarterback or Jason or whoever, but for them too, they got to own a good amount of them for it to be worth it to them financially, right? Just from a, because kind of the models, lower, average volume, but lower build out, maybe a strong return on investment.
Yep. Cash on cash, really strong, but like lower dollars compared to, a Wingstop, like whatever it is. So then to make money, you got to be able to have more of them, build out your infrastructure. And so what do you think for those guys? So Jason starts with 5 or whatever. Is that the toe in the water? So he makes this thing works and then he works to acquire more? Like, what do you think his angle is on that approach? Let's play it out. Like, for example, like a Midas, what's the average build out cost? You don't have to tell me private.
Build. So like we don't
say private cost.
It's second gen,
That's
but
fine. What's my investment?
$300,000.
So to open a Midas, it's going to cost me $300,000.
Like I'm looking at one now, 300, yeah.
All in, franchise fee, the whole 9.
Yep.
Okay, so for $300,000, I can open a Midas.
A second gen existing shop that we're going in. We might have to upgrade lifts and stuff.
What would be a first gen? Just
$2 million.
Okay, so if we average it out, let's just say 60-70% are second gen.
Yeah.
Right. So across the spectrum, because for like an Everbowl second gen, $60,000.
Yep.
$70,000.
That's going into another. Like,
any food. You give me a Subway.
Okay. All right.
That has a decent enough infrastructure.
Yep.
Perfect second gen location. Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
But across the gamut, Everbowls are 150 to 200.
Yep.
Right. To get to open with all the expenses on average. Obviously, we always push second gen. I mean, we had a franchisee in San Diego. He took a former yogurt shop. I think he all in was $68,000, and he made his money back in 4 months. And he's like already got his cat. Now that's not a norm.
Yeah.
That is not me saying that that's going to happen for anybody else. That is an example. But then I have a franchisee who had to build a ground up, no air conditioning system, and ended up costing $350,000.
Yep.
Right. So that's why averages are there. But I'm saying like an average Midas. What are we? $500,000, 600, 700?
Yeah, it could be something.
Okay, so let's just make for easy math. Let's just say it's 500.
Yep.
So I can go open one Midas for 500,000, and so I'll get my territory with one. I could hopefully get to 2 or 2.5 Everbowls for that same amount.
Yep.
the amount of work for 2.5 Everbowls is going to still probably be less than one Midas based on the lack of sophistication that's required for our brand, and et cetera.
Yep.
So for a 5-unit deal, it gives you exposure. It lets your marketing dollars expand. It gives that penetration for entering a new market. Your buying power is enough. One of our small little footprints, yes. Can you make a decent life? Of course. If you're a college kid or you're a middle-income family and you want to replace middle-income money, yes, but a high-net-worth individual, that's not exciting to them.
Yep.
So the goal is if I start with 5, I penetrate the market, then I can have 20. Like Drew started with 5, then he bought 20, then he bought 80, and then he bought 160.
Yep.
Total, not each incrementally. And if I let him, he'd buy more. But I want other people to own them too.
Yep.
The point is the same thing. So I wouldn't let you come in and buy 100.
Yep.
Like, we're not going to do that. So the goal is at 5, it's like, okay, we now have confidence you're going to build out your territory.
Get these things open, make sure things what you think it is.
Yes.
Yep.
And work out any kinks that have to be done. Let's make sure we learn the real estate, and then let's put our real estate feelers out, because sometimes you say, I want to open in this community, but the real estate is not there.
Yep.
So
What do? You go in B, or you wait until that spot that you want to open
with
is
5, you have a big enough reach now where we can get one open. The other landlords are going to see it. It's going to make them more excited to bring it. Then we're going to get our second now. Now a marketing, even a billboard in between, can serve the entire communities, both where they work and where they live and where they go visit friends. Then a third one comes, and then all of a sudden, the city goes, man, these Everbowls are opening everywhere. Everbowls for everybody. Let's go. And then 5 becomes 10, becomes 30, becomes etc. That's what we're trying to approach. But I think forget Everbowl specific, because I think it's
it's the same for us.
It's the same for everybody.
We have three kind of distinct markets even in the Midas business, and we're looking for real estate in all 3 spots, and it's more of we cast the nets, and wherever we get leads, that's where we're going to go. But we have a lot more swings at the bat, and so.
And you de-risk it. I mean, that's the last bit, which I will say that there's 2 rules of thought. I could spend $1 million and open a McDonald's. It'll probably win. Jeff's Burgers for the same $1 million, high risk, 1 location. If you open enough of anything, you will pick a bad location. McDonald's have closed, Starbucks have closed. I don't care who you are. There is no guarantee that real estate will always work. Jersey Mike's just sold for $8 billion. There's one in Hillcrest, San Diego. I know if they opened, it failed, it closed. Every other one worked. So the point of that story is that I believe, for Everbowl specifically, my goal and job is to continuously try to keep the cost to open as low as possible. Because if you're looking at Everbowl versus one of my competitors, and I can get you to 50 to 60 to 70% of what it costs for them, even if their sales are better than me, even if they are better than me, are they enough better than me to make up the upfront? Because it does come down to cash on cash return. It's a utility of cash. It's a business, to your point. What kind of return do I want? How fast will I get it? And will I achieve it? So the lower I can do in the build-out cost, the less risk you put in each piece of real estate, the faster you get to profitability and a cash-on-cash return that is appropriate, the faster you can reinvest in more stores. That's kind of our approach to it.
You had franchisees move locations?
Yes.
Like they do a build-out? Not there, and then say it opens up? And
absolutely. We try to build them in a way that a lot of that FF&E can move. We actually have one of our San Diego franchisees. He's in one community and he's moving because a real estate opened in the outskirts of the same community, and it's such a better location, and his lease was coming up. So rather than renew, he's literally moving the store. But he should expect material improvement in AUVs. And then the data is the last component, I think, to why we attract these athletes and celebrities and bigger names right now, is because we lead with a lot of data points. We are all about focusing on technology, and I say that I mean business intelligence, AI where we can use it, sophistication like real estate models. It doesn't mean everyone else can't do that. We're not the only ones doing that, and we're not perfect, and we have a long way to go. But the way we are approaching it, I think, is indicative of staying current and future thinking, not just we're a restaurant and we're thinking like a restaurant. So, but that's about me. We're not here about me. But man, I could talk to you for hours because you have so much knowledge and insight. And I just want to pick your brain for Everbowl specifically, but also, like I said, I think that we're going to have a conversation. So if you are interested in Everbowl, you might be able to talk to Brian and make sure of that before you come to us directly. But you can still come to us directly. Sorry, Brian.
It's all good.
But we got to end with rapid fire.
Okay.
You ready for some of that?
Sure.
So you're going to stare into camera 1.
Okay.
And I'm going to ask you a couple questions, and you say the first thing that comes to mind.
Okay.
What is the single biggest mistake new franchisees make, and how do you think they could avoid it?
Yeah, I think the biggest mistake that new franchisees make is expecting that everything's going to be easy, where in fact, it may be simple, where they have the playbook, but they still got to do the work to make it successful.
If you had to choose one metric to evaluate a franchise system, what would it be and why?
Yeah, the one metric I'd use to evaluate a franchise system would be the cash-on-cash returns, looking at how much money can this thing make versus, what is the risk that I'm going to put into this, both from money, but, also time. Like a return on time is, I think, just as important as a return on cash.
What's one piece of advice you'd give someone who's looking to expand their thinking and expose themselves to ideas that are currently limiting beliefs?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is to find a way to kind of get out of your current bubble. A lot of people are definitely limited between their friends, their neighbors, their colleagues, and that, this idea that you may have or this dream you may have, other people may try to bring you down if your vision of what you're trying to create is outside of that norm. And so by breaking that, by surrounding yourself with the other people who are super driven and doing really cool things, will not only encourage you, they'll challenge you, they'll make you think differently, and they will, help enable whatever that goal is versus I think sometimes, your neighbors or whoever you're comfortable with will try to bring you down.
Well, Brian, thank you so much for coming
Yeah, thanks
today
for
and
inviting
sharing
me.
so much wisdom with our audience. I mean, I can only imagine there are so many people listening to this going, oh my gosh, I wish I would have spoke to Brian before I got into a franchise, because maybe they're in one and they didn't align it too effectively with kind of who they are, what they wanted to go, or B, they're in that process and they go, man, I wish I would have talked to him before I got this far along. So if you're watching this and you are interested in franchising, definitely get involved with Brian. If you're even considering it, get involved with his content. There are so many abilities for you to onboard yourself into this community, learn from guys like Brian and his community. You know, I'm a franchisor, so I have a bias. He doesn't, because he's a franchisee of Midas, but he is here to get you into any franchise, and he's not necessarily going to push just Midas, right? Hopefully he pushes Everbull. But it should be the right fit. It's not just about pushing. It's about making sure that whatever company or system you get into aligns with. And I love the approach. I love your openness to sharing all that wisdom with strangers and people that you don't know yet, and bringing them to kind of a position where they can generate wealth through franchising. I love 8-figure franchise as an ecosystem. I want to be a part of that as a 8-figure or 9-figure franchisor system. But I want to be a good I also own and operate Everbulls. I have to think through the eyes of a franchisee.
Yep.
So even as a franchisor, this knowledge, this information of what they think about what's important is so essential to stay on the forefront of our brains. So I want to thank you for all of the things you're doing, where you're going, and I encourage everybody to reach out. If there's anything that you wanted to end with, or tell them where best to get involved or how they should start with you, it'd be awesome for them to hear. And
yeah, I appreciate you having me. You know, it's pretty amazing what you're building here. It's being a trailblazer too, because I think there's a lot of franchisors out there that want to build big companies, and it's, you know, you laying the foundation, showing the vertically integrated, showing how you build through relationships. You know, putting franchisee profitability as a forefront of your mind, because you have profitable franchisees. That's, you know, it compounds like crazy. And so, really cool what you're doing. Yeah, so connect with me. Social media, I'm on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Brian Beers. It's all the same handle. And I'd love to connect with you.
have a beer with Brian Beers.
That's right.
That's the name of a podcast.
That's right.
Well, thank you guys. Tune in next time, and definitely reach out to Brian, and appreciate everything you did, Brian.
Cheers.
Hey everyone. First, I want to thank all of you for tuning in. And if you guys haven't heard about my new book, Relationship Bank Account, click the link in the show notes or search the title on Amazon. This book is packed with all my secrets to success in both relationships and life. Make sure to pick up a copy, and if the book helps you on your journey, let us know by leaving a review. I appreciate all of you and can't wait to see you on the next one.